Morning, Rick. We ready with the next batch of pancakes?
Coming at you, Chuck.
Thanks, sir. Good morning, everyone. For over the last 50 years, the men's group here at Stanhope United Methodist Church have been preparing breakfast and serving good food to great friends and neighbors. In the past few years, each meal has consisted of over 300 pancakes and sausages, served along with homemade goodies and a nice piping hot cup of coffee or two. This year, however, our Palm Sunday breakfast and fellowship will be done virtually. And while sometimes meeting together virtually can make us feel a little disconnected from one another, I will continue to pray that soon we will once again be able to commune together in person. Spring is in the air, and new beginnings are just around the corner. We hope to see you all in person Palm Sunday 2022, but for the time being, grab a cup of coffee, boot up, log in, sit back, and get some inspiration. See you all this Sunday. May God bless.
Good morning. My name is Scott LaFerge. I'm the United Methodist Men's Club president at the Stanhope United Methodist Church. We've been having our Palm Sunday breakfast for as long as I could remember. Last year was the first year in a long time when we could not have our event in person. This year we'll be having the event virtually due to safety protocols, but we look forward to seeing you all again next year. This year it is my honor to introduce our guest speaker, the pastor Tim Nicinski from the Waterloo United Methodist Church. Tim will be sharing his insights on his church ministry and from his book he's authored called My Other Brother. Thank you, Pastor Tim, for joining us today.
Well, good morning and welcome to the United Methodist Men's Pancake Breakfast for Stanhope United Methodist Church. I think we may have all met in the past, but if we haven't, my name is Tim Nicinski and I am the pastor at Waterloo United Methodist Church right down the street in Byram. And I'm so glad that we got to get together today to have just a brief message about matters of the heart, matters of the soul, matters of the mind, matters of our Christian experience, matters of our faith, if you will. And so today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about a couple of items. I first wanted to start with a story from a book about Jacob the baker. I don't know if everybody knows Jacob the baker, but the story goes that Jacob the baker one day was working in his bakery and a builder came, a mason, as a matter of fact, came to see him, to talk to him. So the mason, covered in his, the masonry dust from his work, asks to see Jacob the baker. And Jacob comes from behind the counter, and he, of course, covered in flour. And the mason asks Jacob if he had any advice for him. He was going to build a house. And Jacob paused, kind of made an odd face and said, "What do I know of house building? I, sir, am a baker." And at the time, the bakery was filled with people who often wanted to hear the wisdom and advice of Jacob. So not only was the mason disappointed, but the entire community was disappointed to not have the opportunity to hear from Jacob. The dejected mason turned and started toward the door. And then Jacob raised his finger and putting it on his face, he said, "Oh, I think I do have a word for you." Quickly, the mason turned around and inquired what that word would be. The remainder of the bakery hushed in silence to hear Jacob's important words. And Jacob said, many years ago, there was a builder who had come in and said the key, the most important components to a home, he said, were a window and a door. He said the door allowed you to go inside. Allowed you to go inside the structure to enjoy the hearth and the warmth and the home. It allowed you a place to feed. It allowed you a place to sit and be still, to rest, to ponder God. And then he said the purpose of the window was so that you could look outside your structure. You could see your neighbors. You could be aware of what their needs were. You could be aware of what was important to them. And you could be an interacting member of the community. Jacob closed with these words. He said, the builder believed strongly in the value of a door and a window. He said, without the ability to look upon our fellow humanity with love and concern outside, and without the ability to go inside for a deep and rich, meaningful life of an inner life, the structure was not a home. It was a coffin. And I think this wisdom is absolutely the centerpiece of what John Wesley believed about piety or sanctity or a faithful life, one that reflected interiorly with God and one that reflected exteriorly with God. In other words, our inner lives, our prayer lives, our meditative lives, those of where we meet God in the silence, was of equal importance and imbalance with our experiences outside with God. And we meet God outside in our friends and family, neighbors, those people that are strangers to us, but who yearn for a deep and meaningful relationship with God, a deep and meaningful relationship in community. And it is part of this feeling in my heart. It's part of this life of faith, this pursuit, this pilgrimage, if we can use that for this time, that drew me to write this book, right, My Other Brother. And so the confines of it, or the parameters of My Other Brother, are reflections on brotherhood, manhood, if you will, or even siblinghood at some level, and where we can find parallel structures and meanings from the Bible that parallel and structure meanings in our lives, so that we can draw on the great wisdom tradition, on the arc of the justice and authority that we draw from our biblical lives, and in turn use that for our interior life and our exterior life, to be prayerful and hopeful, to build our relationship with God and to build a relationship with one another, so that we have this wholeness, this holiness, this structure that is a place to live. It is not a coffin. There are several stories in the book that I like very much. One I want to draw your attention to is the one about Joseph. And we know of Joseph the dreamer, Joseph of the fancy coat, Joseph the youngest son, right, of his family, who had brothers who saw Joseph as a part of their family, but also a part of their economy. And the economy that so often drives us and drives our lives is one that is unfortunately zero sum. That if I have something, it takes from you. And the things that you have take from me. And that in that zero sum economy, your gain is my loss, and my loss is your gain. And that is not the economy of God. No, it's not. The economy of God invites us to recognize the value of one another, and that we are collaborators, that we are community, and that your good is my good, and my loss is your loss. Our strength together is what binds us, as the hymn goes. It is those cords that bind us to God and to one another. And so the story about Jacob, that I'm sure, I won't go into great detail, is that he is a dreamer, and his dreams tell him that his brothers will end up bowing down to him. And they're not happy about it. They're filled with jealousy and rage, so much so that they throw him into an empty pit, and then eventually sell him off. He arrives in Egypt, as you may or may not know, a slave. And yet, during an incredible famine, the Pharaoh of Egypt puts him in charge of not only the collection of food, the ability, the storage of food, the preparation for this huge famine, but then allows him to be the bursar, if you will, sharing food, sharing the money that builds up the Egyptian economy. And so when we wonder how Egypt becomes so powerful, so wealthy, so abundant in authority, by the time we get to Exodus, we learn, the early pieces of that is in Genesis. When the world is at famine, Egypt aspires. When the world is suffering, the Egyptians grow. They benefit financially from the heartache and suffering of the world. And the story continues that Jacob, Israel, sends his sons to Egypt. They are unaware that their brother has become this great leader in Egypt. They are unaware of the fact that he is not a slave, but he is literally the king, the royal monarch's right-hand man. And so eventually, as the story goes, this comes to light. And one of his brothers, Judah, who was trying to find a way to get him out of the bind he was with his other brothers, is the one who is the first to recognize that the zero-sum economy doesn't work, that he's willing to give himself up for his younger brother so that he may return home from the tricks of Joseph. Eventually, once Joseph invites his family in, they too enjoy the safety and the wealth, the experience that is Egypt. We read that Joseph names his children Egyptian names. He takes on all the same facades and experiences of being an Egyptian member of the hierarchy. He holds the emperor's, the monarch, or the Caesar's, Pharaoh's ring, signet ring, that has total authority in the land. And then the famine ends. And when the famine ends, there's this expectation, there's this back and forth moment where Jacob, Israel, comes to Joseph and is prepared for them to return to the promised land. Joseph cannot. Joseph can't pull himself out of this. He has enjoyed so much, this economic authority, this power, this prestige, that it literally makes him turn his back from God. He picks these Egyptian roots, if you will. He picks this Egyptian wealth. He picks this Egyptian economy. He can't let it go. He could certainly return to the promised land, return to the land of Canaan, and live out a good life with his family, but he refuses. We know that while he is somewhat of an indentured servant, that he has that signet ring. He has the key to his own freedom, and he chooses it not. We know of the disappointment of his father, because he says to him, when I die, bury me back in my homeland. This is an often overlooked line in the text, because we would want to think that, this is about nostalgia. This is about, put me back in my hometown. But it is not. It is a rebuke of Joseph. It is Jacob saying, Israel saying, that you have been given this wonderful gift by God. The gift of prophecy and the gift of wisdom and the gift of seeing was a gift from God. It was a gift that not only saved our family, but saved quite possibly the entire world. And now, when you have this opportunity to be thankful for it, to allow that blessing to wash over you, you choose differently. And Jacob goes to his grave disappointed in his son Joseph. There's a lot of reasons for why Joseph is in conflict. It seems that he has conflict with his older brothers. He has conflict with his father. But he is always someone who is trying to find a father figure. He loses that, even though he is Jacob's favorite. We learn that in Genesis, but he's quickly taken away. So he's always trying to find someone to make him feel like the man that he so desperately wants to be. He wants someone to say, you're a good boy. He wants someone to say that you're doing right. He wants someone to affirm him with this exterior experience that is void of God. He sees his community and helps it, but he helps them for not the right reasons. That is an incredible danger for men. We struggle to find father figures in our lives. Sometimes we have good fathers, sometimes we don't have great fathers. And so we keep on searching and searching for that attaboy moment that makes us feel okay. Joseph finds out that the attaboy moment that he got from the Pharaoh is short-lived. And unfortunately, if we find our attaboys from economics, we find our attaboys from our military leaders, we find our attaboys in our political powers and authority, those people change. We realize that when we hero worship, the one who loses out most is us. And that is why this is such a powerful and important story, amongst others, in the text, reminding us that it is our Holy Father, our Lord, who sees us and knows that we are good, sees us and knows the gifts that we have been given are not to be the vehicle by which we exist, but a vehicle for our life with God, our relationship. God deeply wants a relationship with each and every one of us. We are called in the Jesuit tradition, as I often refer, to praise, to reverence, to serve God, to live our lives for the glory of God, not for the glory of our corporation, not for the glory of this state or that, not for this institution or organization, but to live our lives for the glory of God. That is what we are called to. That is what Joseph misses. That is what Jacob calls Joseph to, all his sons to, and each one of us. He prepares or provides the prophetic word, the focus on God's holiness. That, from the very beginning, is the message and the miracle of who we are as human beings. God created humanity and said it was very, very good. This is a great book, and I invite you to purchase My Other Brother regularly, put my kid through college, like I always say and joke about. However, I also invite you, if you're interested in a deeper, richer experience of centering prayer, Lectio Divina, meditation, going through the Ignatian spiritual exercises, and I provide those through my work at the Center for Spiritual Renewal, which I'm just starting. But really, it's just this connection that I'm offering all people, not just men, to come together for a real sense of spiritual renewal, a real sense of creating a relationship with God that deepens, that is real, that allows us to be comforted and challenged. That's what a good relationship with God is. It's Richard Rohr, the Franciscan priest, who will say, if that love relationship with God is only ooey gooey, then it's only half of a real relationship with God. We need to let God talk to us in challenging ways. We need to let God have a real meaningful relationship with us that tells us when we've done well and tells us when we've missed the mark. And to know that in either extreme or in the middle, that God's love never ends for us. Instead, it grows daily. It unfolds in who we are and what we're about. We get on this highway, this pilgrimage, like I talked about earlier on, and we sometimes get lost. You take the wrong exit. We get off at the wrong ramp. We start to run out of gas and try to find ways to get fueled up. But we don't have to go all the way back to the start point in this relationship with God. No, instead, we need to be reminded that off-ramp to on-ramp. We don't have to go back to the very beginning. Because the very beginning, when we start, when the spark of our life begins, it is a reminder that we are very good. And so I invite you to join me sometime for some meditation, a real awareness to who we are, a time to write about your thoughts and feelings in journaling, a time to be aware of that fasting is more than just hunger in your stomach, a time for a deep spiritual renewal, so that your time on Sunday for worship is richer, it's more beneficial, and the rest of the time, Monday through Sunday, your reverence of God, your praise of God, your life of living to the glory of God is one that has an incredible interior life and an equal exterior life. So I invite you, as we close, to build your home, as Jacob said. Build it sturdy. Build it with all the great stuff on the inside. And build it with a window so that when you leave, you interact and engage with your siblings in God, renewed and restored, aware of your sacredness and their sacredness, filled with hope, filled with a sense of restoration, a sense of renewal, and the never-ending reminder that God loves you, and so do I. I wish you a wonderful Holy Week. I hold you in prayer during this time from Palm Sunday to Easter, from ashes to lilies. I wish you nothing but peace and grace. Have a blessed, blessed day.